That's the one.
Berenstein,
Here.
Bertrand,
Here.
Rayford,
Here.
Shaner. Here. Scott.
Here, could we stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shannon Runger. Proclamation that reads, whereas the month of March has been designated as National Problem Gambling Month, whereas problem gambling is a public health issue affecting millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds, and carries significant societal and economic costs for individuals, families, businesses, and communities. Whereas problem gambling is treatable and treatment is effective in minimizing this harm to both individuals and society as a whole. And numerous individuals, professionals, and organizations have dedicated their efforts to the educating of the public about problem gambling and the availability and effectiveness of treatment. Whereas Rosencrantz-Jackson Center invite all residents of the City of Sioux City to participate in National Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Now, therefore, I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim March 26th as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Sioux City, Iowa, and encourage all our citizens to support the National Council on Problem Gambling and Rosencrantz-Jackson Center in their efforts to have the conversation with friends, family, patients, clients about gambling addiction. I'd like to present this to you and say a few words if you would.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Shannon Runger, and for the last 2 years, I've been the compliance manager at Hard Rock Sioux City. I want to thank you very much for this proclamation. Every March, Hard Rock Sioux City takes several initiatives to bring awareness not only to our team members, but also to the community of the problems and issues that come from gambling addictions. We take responsible gaming very seriously, and we continue to do training throughout the year, and we work very closely with Rosecrans. We have a very good relationship with them. They provide us with materials and training throughout the year, and we really appreciate this. Thank you.
Santa Claus, you want to come up here, Mr. Lindblom? We have a commendation today that reads, whereas on behalf of the City of Sioux City and the countless families whose holidays have been touched by your generosity, the city extends its deepest appreciation and heartfelt thanks for your extraordinary 44 years of service as Santa Claus. Whereas for more than 4 decades, you've embodied the true spirit of the holiday season, bringing joy, wonder, and magic to generations of children and families through your warmth, kindness, and unwavering dedication. Whereas your welcoming smile, gentle words, and consistent presence have made the holiday brighter and more meaningful for our community year after year, and for many children, you were their Santa. My kids and my grandkids, thank you. Where it is exemplary to note that you have selfishly offered your time and service in this role at no cost, and during the most recent holiday season alone, you wore the Santa suit an extraordinary 22 times. And where few roles carry such a lasting and meaningful impact on the children of this community, and through your consistency and generosity over 44 years, your presence has become a cherished tradition and a living piece of Sioux City history. Now, therefore, I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby commend Dick Lindblom for the time you have volunteered and the lasting legacy you leave through treasured memories and enduring spirit of the season. I'd like to present that to you and say a few words, if you would.
Well, I never thought 44 years would be a magic number, but
Hopefully I'll have a few more for Ike to be able to mic me up, for the lighted holiday parade. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have an interview with Active Transportation and Catherine Pfaffel.
Hello, I'm Kathy Peffel.
Want to serve on another committee, huh?
I think I could assist, yes.
Play your cards right, you might be on every board and commission you have by
I
the
think
end
I'm
of the
short by
year.
just a couple, yes, yeah.
I appreciate your interest. There are vacancies. I'm glad that you're interested in this, but I also appreciate your service on the other boards and commissions that you help with.
Thank you.
Questions for?
Oh, I think it'd be a good fit.
You're going to stay on the other committee too, though, right? Or you get,
I think
I think my term's coming up, but I'd like to continue, if
I
possible.
think part of
so.
what we have to do today is actually approve, because we have to waive the rules to allow you to do
Yes.
so.
but not until she actually makes the agenda.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today, the consent agenda is items 3 through 12H. You consider these to pass unanimously unless a separate roll call vote's asked for by a council member. If you want to speak on any of these items, please come up as I read them. If you want to speak on an item not on the agenda, please come up under citizen concerns. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second,
3 is a reading of the February 23rd city council minutes.
can I ask a question about this? And I don't know if there's anybody to address this, and I'm not necessarily asking that we revise this, but I meant to ask last week, and we moved through it. But on item 18D is a resolution amending a purchase order to Andritz Separation of Arlington, Texas, to increase the purchase order by an additional $34,988. Is there anybody here on that item? The question that I've got is, this addition was as a result of the equipment was sent down, they reevaluated it after having bid the project, is that correct?
Vicki Baker, Assistant Public Works Director. So they bid back on a general scope of what 22 or 12,000 repair would be. Once we then ship it to them, they tear it apart, find out it's the additional work.
So is it customary to have them, as you described, tear it apart and then amend
Yes.
and ask for the additional?
Yes.
Were there other bids that might have been less than this $34,000?
I'm not sure if any other bids came in, but Andritz is the manufacturer of the equipment.
Okay, thank you.
I need to abstain, I was not here. 4 is a motion appointing Micah Henderson to the Yamanashi City Sister City Committee. 5 is a resolution accepting the State Housing Trust Fund grant agreement between the Sioux City Housing Trust Fund and the Iowa Finance Authority. 6 is a resolution amending the authorized personnel complement, the position classification manual, the salary schedule by approving an updated job description for landscape technician and reclassifying one labor crew leader position to landscape technician.
What does this do to the salary component? Thanks, Kelly.
Kelly Bach, Parks Maintenance, not field supervisor anymore, and Park Superintendent. Got to get used to that change. That was a classification change.
What'd that do?
There is no financial
It's
impact in
it's
this.
a
It's an
washing-
even over, I believe it's range 817, so it's just even over.
Very good.
Just looking at clarifying a few things.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kelly.
7 are actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving a grade crossing signal installation agreement with BNSF in connection with the grade crossing service repair project at Pearl Street. B is a resolution approving a consulting services agreement with DGR Engineering for the Pulaski Park Stormwater Pipe Replacement Project. Gordon, tell me again why we can't use the 12 by 12 that we paid $1 million for one other time when I was on the council, that we've never figured out why we did that.
That's the box culvert, right?
Yes. Currently, it is being used for a water line going in the
That runs
corner.
through it?
Runs through it, yes.
Across it, or?
No, longitudinally with it, inside. But the reason we can't use it is we've looked at it, and we'd have to go underneath the railroad and through a private property into the Bacon Creek Channel, old Bacon Creek Channel, to get it to drain.
Why did we build it? We had to have right-of-way at one time to do that.
I couldn't answer that.
Well, how did we lose the right-of-way?
And that was way before my time, so I couldn't tell you on that. I've talked to Paul Stenson on it, and he had no information on that railroad crossing at all. It'd be a big crossing under the railroad too. I don't even know if they'd obviously go for it eventually, but it'd be big.
How are you going to get rid of the water?
It's going to go through the current ditch that we have. We're just putting bigger pipes up to that point.
What's in there now?
Oh,
Ice pipe.
I don't remember. I think it's a 72.
That's what that,
Or no, I think it's bigger than that. I can find that out and get back to you.
I would like to defer that till we know.
do a little more research.
Yeah, I'd move we defer for at least a week to get more information. And I'm sorry I didn't get to you earlier, but I just heard from Paul a minute ago or so.
I'll second the request to defer. Before we vote, can I ask one other question?
Certainly.
On section 7 on the engineering fees, task 6 talks about limited construction administration for $22,040. How do you determine that amount? Because it seems like that's the component that always has a change order or always has.
Actually, on the ones you're referring to is actually when it is full construction, inspection and administration.
Okay.
This one is just the limited one where they're just, they kind of guess at what they're going to need to talk to contractors about if they have any kind of questions through RFIs or through some submittal review. It's very limited on.
It's only $22,000, but
Yep.
the concern I had was that it exceed that number. So if it's less than that number, do we get a reduction to the contract?
No.
Okay.
A motion and a second on the floor.
Bertrand. Rayford.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Berenstein.
Aye.
C is a resolution approving a consulting and services agreement with Felsberg, Holt, and Yulvig for the 5th Street and Court Street traffic signal replacement project. D is a resolution approving a contract to Ingvarth Directional Drilling for the fiber optic project. E is a resolution granting a permit to IMON Communications to maintain underground fiber on 4th Street.
Can I ask a question on both E and F? So this is granted without the franchise fee, but there's still not a permit fee or any other fee that attaches to,
There is a permit fee for each one of these.
but there's not but they are not required to pay the franchise fee, correct?
Correct.
So the permit fee is simply to do the work, but we don't generate any income for the occupancy of their fiber?
Correct.
Are we not permitted to do so, or we just don't?
Don't, as far as I know.
Because
Never have.
it's not inconsistent with the franchise fee, correct?
Correct.
Is there franchise fee allowed on cable?
I didn't think it was.
What's that?
Well, we
I
do.
didn't think it was allowed.
What was allowed?
Franchise fee. I'm not-
When it's franchise fees, we do get fees back through the state.
Well, not necessarily. We used to have it with Cable One or whatever they call it now, Sparklight, but
I thought that went away.
the state took it.
So the state collects it and we get a kickback? Are we
Correct.
from-
I don't think the state gets one. They had the right to go to the state to be regulated rather than the city, and everybody chose to go to the state because nobody regulates them then.
I was under the impression that we got a kickback fee for that.
Well, that'd be interesting, but I don't. Teresa, do we get any franchise fee on cable? I mean, on internet?
Teresa Fitch, Finance Director. Yes, we do get franchise fees on cable, but I do not believe on these we're eligible for them.
On this.
Fiber, we don't.
Right,
No.
on the fiber?
Correct.
Thank you both.
F is a resolution granting a permit to Metro FiberNet to maintain underground fiber adjacent to Sunnybrook Drive. G is a resolution approving a renewal option number 1 to the service provider agreement with Langenfeld Contracting for the wastewater biosolids transportation and land application program.
I just have one correction on the RCA. It said 3-year contract. It was actually a 4-year contract. The resolution and the contract extension were correct. So it's just a minor.
H is a resolution approving a statement of work and payment with Paymentus Corporation to initiate Central Square Fusion Interactive Voice Responsive Integration on a new terminal line access. This has got to be a John Malloy deal. Not yours, John?
Teresa Fitch, Finance Director. This is actually the product that I was talking about this weekend where we do IVR payments over the phone. We'd have the ability to take credit card payments over the phone. So it's interfacing with Central Square. So,
And there's no financial impact here?
no, nope.
I is a resolution approving a renewal option number 1 to the consulting services agreement with ArcStar Group for air consulting services at the airport. J is a
Excuse me, Mayor, can I ask a
Yep.
question? Is this coming out of the airport's budget
It is.
and we're approving it?
It's in our operating budget.
Okay, very good.
J is a resolution approving an agreement with Perfect Mind for software as a service and professional services. K is a resolution approving amendment number 1 to the memorandum of understanding with the Sioux City Assessor's Office, the Conference Board, the Woodbury County Assessor's Office and Conference Board, and the WCICC Commission relating to geographic information system services and operation. 8 are actions authorizing payment. A is a resolution authorizing.
Mayor, I'm sorry, can I go back to J? There's a typo that was in last week's materials. If you go to page 179, there's a reference to, I think it's supposed to be $5,600, but there's no period. I don't want there to be any confusion. Just make a correction on page 179 that the 5,6000 should be $5,600, not $56,000. That's it.
8 are actions authorizing payments. A is a resolution authorizing payment of retainage to H&R Construction Company for the new utilities field office building project. B is a resolution authorizing payment to the IDOT for traffic signal detection for the hot mix asphalt overlay project, Iowa 376 project. C is a resolution approving settlement of a tort claim and authorizing payment, Eikenberry. 9 are actions relating to properties. A through C are resolutions authorizing release of mortgages with Siouxland Habitat for Humanity for the construction of single-family housing units located at 1816 Harkin Place, 1822 Harkin Place, and 1735 Harkin Place. D is a resolution authorizing certification of completion for the development agreement for Siouxland Habitat for Humanity for the construction of 3 single-family units located at 1735, 1816, and 1822 Harkin Place.
Is there anybody here that wants to talk about that? What the plan is? We can,
I think these are already.
that we can celebrate that this is.
Jill Wanderscheid, Neighborhood Services Manager. These were some projects that were actually done several years ago. I think they wrapped right around COVID. And so the city partnered with Habitat at the time to deed over 3 lots to them. They built 3 homes, and now it was just an oversight. They need to be released since it's
Families living there, happy, healthy, and wise. Yep.
And actually, this got brought up because one of them is being sold right now, so it came up in a title. And so.
And we've got a couple more that we worked with over off Center Street around the
Yep,
corner.
on Myrtle, there are 3 lots, again, the city had. We deeded over to Habitat. Those homes are now done and sold, so pretty exciting.
Yep, we're making headway on some family homes, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
10 is purchasing. A is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Burt Gurney and Associates for 1 mixed flow propeller unit. B is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Malloy Electric for the repair of 1 Fairbanks Morris pump, HP and motor. C is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Riverside Technology for desktops and monitors for the county replacement project.
Just a quick clarification, this says that it's for the purchase of desktops and monitors. I assume you mean desktop computers? Is that right, John? It just says desktops and monitors. I
Yeah.
assume that means desktop computers?
John Malloy, IT, you're correct.
Okay, thanks.
11 are applications for alcohol licenses, 12 are board, commission, and committee minutes. This concludes the consent agenda. Anyone to be heard on any of those items? Passes 5-0. 13 is a hearing and resolution adopting the comprehensive solid waste reduction plan. I'll move that.
Second.
Hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Seeing none, the hearing is closed.
I want to just confirm, the Environmental Advisory Board reviews and approves this, correct? That was part of their minutes. Did I see that correctly? Before it gets to us?
Air Montang Environmental, yes.
On
The ordinance.
Yep.
Rate increase, that's just the comprehensive plan.
This is the plan that has to be reviewed. And the EAB did look at it. This isn't the rates? No.
Passes 5-0. 14 is an ordinance amending Chapter 5.20 entitled Solid Waste of the Municipal Code. First consideration was approved February 9th. Second consideration was approved February 23rd, 2026. I'll move third reading.
I'll second that.
The amendments.
So Teresa, where you at? There you are. So we talked about the fee on the second can, right?
Yep.
Can you share with the council, with the public, what we kind of found out? What, first of all, give us the structure on what the first can rate is and the second can rate.
I'm going to have Era do that for you. I'm not 100% sure exactly how and why they've come up with that structure. I can tell you what
Here's what it is. That's
changes
okay.
will be. So the 95-gallon can, the first can itself is $18.93, the secondary per can, and then the additional can is $4.63 per additional can.
New rates coming.
Yep, those would be the new rates, yes. The 26 rate that we're currently at is $18.38 for the 95-gallon and $4.50 for an additional can.
So what percentage of people get the additional can? Do we know that?
We have nearly 21,500 additional cans.
Additionals. So it's about 18 versus 4 if you get a second can. And the point that we were talking about in operations is that, yeah, the truck is still rolling down the road, but the reality of it is they're still picking up tonnage and putting it on. So to try to defer some of the cost on the everyday taxpayer on the single cans, especially a lot of our older community that get calls on this says that they don't even fill up a full can every time.
Sure.
I think I like what you said. So it's worth basically about $26,000 per dollar.
So it's 21,500. So
21,000.
in a year, it'd be about $257,000 if
We
you
had a
did
buck.
it per month.
If you add a buck just to the additional cans.
Correct.
On that.
How much?
A buck.
A month.
See, I actually like the idea of adding 2.5. I think it's still a steal. Take it to 6.5 on the second can, and that would generate us right at $500,000, wouldn't it?
Yeah, actually beyond that.
Yeah.
Yep, about
And you'd
600,000.
still be, Mr. Mayor, it'd still be 18, almost $19 versus 6.5 on the second can.
I will say that will grow the fund.
Yeah,
I
that's
just want
okay.
everyone to
But
be
we're
aware.
worried about 50 cents on the big cans.
We can offset that.
I know we can, but that's what brought the discussion up. We don't want to raise 50 cents on a big can, but we're willing to raise dollars on the second can.
I just think because they've never been raised before. I mean, to me, it's a complete oversight by the city. I'm trying to figure out why we charge 18 and then 4.
Because that's what we worked out with Gil. they're not charging us any more than that. They're not, I don't believe they're charging us for the tonnage. I believe they're charging us for their staff, the trucks, the gas, the labor.
Right, the trucks, the gas, the labor, all is based upon how many trips they got to go to the landfill. So if you have if for every second can there is, they build that into how they price out their contract and they bill us out. So indirectly, you are, the secondary can to me is, if the everyday citizen doesn't want rates to raise, here's the way to do it, because the second can is optional. You don't have an option to drop a can. You have to have a can if you have a home. You don't have a choice. It's like sewer rates, or runoff fee, you have to pay it. But to have a second can is a choice, and that choice.
Well, not if you have a large family, because you have to be able to close a lid per our ordinance.
Like I said, it's a choice. So the $4 versus, again, you're not asking you to do dollar for dollar 18 to 18. But if you're looking at a way to offset the people, I think the most vulnerable, or people that 70 cents or $2 a month makes a difference to, I think you can offset it by just saying if you got the second or the third can. And I think it even plays more into, there's some houses that I even know in my own neighborhood that have, 6, 7 cans, 8 cans, and I guess I question what they're doing with that. Are they using it more of a commercial use anyway, when you start looking at that many cans? So I'd like to see an amendment add to leave harmless the
First can?
leave harmless. Leave harmless the first can. You wouldn't no rate increase on the first can. What's that worth? That the revenue on the first can?
There's 26,630.
No, on the $18, the bump you're taking, Teresa.
About $50,000.
That's what I thought. So if you, again, we got to be creative here, and I don't think and we're not targeting anybody. And I think it helps the most vulnerable. Let's leave harmless the single can, the original rate, and I like 2.5. I think it still makes it 6.5, which is still not even 40% roughly of a second can if you were to go dollar for dollar. And I think that the public can understand it and can agree with it.
So if you don't give the rate increase on the first can, you lose 50 grand?
Correct.
So you'd only, to do what you guys want to do, you'd only have to raise.
Well, that's per percentage. I apologize. That's per percentage. So it's actually, it's a little more than that. 150,000, so it's 50,000 per percentage, so 1% equals 50,000. So the 3% is about 150,000, and then 2% would be 100,000, and then the 1% is 50,000. So each percentage amount is about 50,000.
But I think the original idea was we were going to try to spread that fund out, Mr. Mayor, maybe like 1% each for 3 years, right? Try to make that expand.
Right. That's an option.
Talking about.
Or possibly 2% per year, right?
Right, that was an option, yes. Yep.
I look at this no difference than like a gas tax. It's a user fee. If you don't use the second can, it doesn't affect you. Everybody has to have the first one.
You're going to have a lot of second cans coming back, though, because I rarely use them.
Great. That's great. Less tonnage.
That, or we have as Julie said, we have to have your container closed. If it's open, you can get a fine because then it can cause litter. I'm afraid that people are going to give back that second container and try to shove everything in the first one or have it overflowing onto the ground. That would be my only concern.
Let's not assume. Let's just see what happens. I don't think anybody's going to give up their can.
I'm just throwing that out there as a concern.
So I'm still trying to figure this out. So 1% is 50 grand.
On the first.
And you want at least two.
Well, the option was that you could do, you could spread that out, what we have in the fund. So, right. That would make sure the fund still has some funds available. If we don't take any increase at all, it takes the fund down to about $13,000.
We saw numbers for 1%, 2%, 3%.
Yep, 1% puts the fund at $69,694,000. 2% puts the fund at $126,000, and 3% puts the fund at about $183,000.
So if you did 50 cents on the, let's just say 50 cents, you're going to generate another 10 grand, 10 plus a month. That's 120 grand.
Well, on the second can? On the second can, because we have so many second cans, 50 cents would actually be $120-some thousand,
Right.
a year. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why you want to, I don't want to build a fund for garbage, sorry.
Right.
I want you to have enough cash flow to make it work. So You guys can make a motion,
I
but
mean, the other option is you could take 50 cents this year to the second can and 50 cents next year, and you could build that $2.50 up instead of touching the first can. That's certainly an option too.
Well,
Make sure that you
problem
can-
is, again, is it's a 3-year fix and it's shallow and we're going to run it dry. And you already said yourself that you need some cash at times. You have things that come up on quite regularly. That's why the reserve is there. So
Right.
I mean, it's a feel good for 3 years if we buy it down 1% for 3 years. But it's not, again, if you really want to change fundamentally the system.
I meant you
And-
could add 50 cents to the second can each year and build the fund by, instead of building it all in the first year, you could build $125,000 the first
So
year.
people feel like we're
second year,
raising the
third
rates
year.
every year. Yeah.
I mean,
Just
I
to the
understand that.
Well,
That's what I mean, though. But I mean,
Yep.
Coming back
Yeah.
every year anyway.
It just gives you incrementally an increase instead of all in one time.
may not be here in 3 years, so I'd like to just keep it in for now.
So I'd like to make that motion that we go 2.5 and then leave the first rate stagnant on the existing rate. That will give relief. That means that everybody that has their existing one can will feel no rate increase.
You're going to take the second one to 7 something then.
The second one goes to about 6.5, right?
Immediately
Seven
or,
bucks.
immediately or ladder it in over 3 years?
Whenever the contract pops. No, I think you go,
It'd go to $7 a
Yeah.
can.
which is
It would go to
still,
$7.
less than half. And again, the bigger picture here is that can is full and it's putting tonnage on the truck.
Second?
No, there hasn't been a second, but I'm just trying to, so what's the proposal on the first can? To keep it the same?
Yeah, at the same rates, don't even raise the rates, so
We're going to cover,
And
Yeah,
then
we're gonna
so
cover.
we covered the
Yeah.
fund issue by the second can by $2.50 immediately.
Yes.
You more than covered it, you're going up over $300,000.
Yeah, you're gonna basically net back
Yeah.
about 3
You'll
and a
go
half.
up about over $600,000 is what you'll get. for
Which is
that
gonna
two and a
allow us
half.
to do some updating and stuff down the road that we,
Are we leaving the 65-gallon can the same price then too, as well? Or is just that?
what's
just
the impact
95?
there?
For the,
our senior citizens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, what's the impact of leave? I kind of meant.
Leave it?
I should,
Yep.
yeah.
that was the thought.
How many 65-gallon totes are there?
350. There's not that many.
You're talking, even at 50 cents a month, you're just not talking about that much money. And clearly, it's covered by Rick's
Yeah.
proposal on the second can.
Right.
What do you think the attrition will be on the second can? Do you think there will be many that,
I'm sure there will be
Give it-
some people that will decide they don't want the can, but I have no idea. I mean, if you use the can, you're going
You're gonna
to
keep
the
it.
can.
Fill it.
So if,
Yep.
those would just be the people that haven't used it and decided, hey, I'm not using this, now it's becoming more expensive, but I have no idea how many people that would be.
And the reason why this makes sense is they entered into a contract where they didn't leave any room for gas allowance. So right now, to me, if I would have been there to negotiate the contract, it would have been the same way we see when we're getting concrete or anything else. When gas gets to a certain place, they bang us, they charge us. Well, gas is down right now, so in theory, we should have a contract with Gil, but we don't, that says that that our fee should go down. So it's that we don't have that. So this is a way for us to, I think, just status quo this and ride this contract out like we're doing. And it helps the everyday consumer. It really does. It helps the everyday person that has one can. It helps the senior citizens. And it also creates some buffer for you to do what you need to do when things come up versus we have no money and we got to steal from somewhere else. It's a user fee. That's the best way to explain it.
so the
Let's not
other,
say we steal from other places. Unfortunately, we cannot do that.
Yeah, bounce from other
Let's make that clear.
So,
the other CPI index changes of 3%, glass recycling, hauling fee, high-density drop-off recycling, high-density drop-off recycling site per haul per 8 and 20. And the other indexes, automobile tires, pickup tires, major appliances at 2%, tractor tires 3%. Those are all still proposed to go up as previously approved. So the proposal right now is the amendment to
Correct.
eliminate the 3% on the the 95s, increase the second on the 95s.
Full 3%?
As I understand it,
In
that's
lieu
what.
of,
That's
so in
what-
lieu of the
In lieu of,
3%.
you're buying it
Yeah.
down.
So there would not be an
status quo.
increase on 95 or 65 gallons. It would just be the additional
Yeah.
additional can that would be
it.
$2.50
Or we
more.
could agree not to do the 3% and do 1 or 2% on the first
You could.
95 gallon as well.
Well, you could split it. That's-
And deplete the fund in 3 years.
No, because you're still going to get your,
Oh, you mean, and you still do the 2.5?
and still do the 2.5 that you're
Oh.
proposing.
Yeah, I kind of like leaving no, let's throw a bone to the citizen. Let's throw the bone to the person that went out of their way. I think I got like 9 or 10 emails that said, don't quit raising our rates every year. And I know it's only like 60, 70 cents, but clearly,
Dollars a year.
so it's a user fee. That's how you got to look at it. This should have been done years ago.
So we've got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Rayford,
Aye.
Shaner,
No?
Scott,
No.
Berenstein,
No.
Bertrand.
Aye, that's status quo, guys, at its best right there.
No, because we have further discussion on where we are with the 1, 2, or 3% increase as it is, as
Yep,
opposed to.
You could,
Yeah.
yeah, they certainly could have, you could have another amendment.
And we could,
Yeah.
and we could still
Option.
bundle, rather than going to 2.50.
You could go to
or
$1 or $1.50,
We could go
you could
to
do that.
50 cents or $1 and just try and blend it all in, which is, I have more comfort doing that.
So per dollar that you increase that can, it goes up about $258,000, the fund does.
Say that again?
Per dollar that you increase the can per month, the
On the
additional
second
can,
can-
on the second can, it's about $258,000 a year.
But what I'm saying, Craig, on that 250 is that you're basically taking away the auto 3%. That was my goal, is you're basically taking away that automatic 3% in a really bad contract
And the 3% generates how much additional?
that we never get a vote on.
183,000.
So if you went $1 on the extra can, you would cover that and then some.
Yep,
Yeah.
you would.
Move that.
Yep, I'll second that.
Shaner,
Aye.
Scott, Berenstein,
Aye.
Bertrand,
Aye.
Rayford.
Aye.
So that means the others stay flat, but that goes.
Yep.
Correct.
Now on the motion, third reading, I'll move it. Well, we already moved it, so now we got to vote on that.
Scott,
Aye.
Berenstein,
Aye.
Bertrand,
No.
Rayford, Shaner,
Aye.
Discussion 15 is a motion appointing Alex Waters to the Active Transportation Advisory Committee, deferred from February 23rd, 2026. I'll move that.
Mr. Mayor, can I defer that for another week?
Okay. Do we have, yeah, we got to,
Let's get a second for the discussion first.
Second.
Okay.
okay, now you can,
Ask for a second on the deferral.
now, Rick.
Now you can.
Now you can move to defer.
He
What's
had to
that?
second the motion.
Oh, gotcha.
Now you can move to
Yeah, I'll
defer.
move to defer, just for a week.
Second?
Second.
Berenstein,
Aye.
Bertrand,
Aye.
Rayford,
Aye.
Shaner,
No?
Scott.
Aye. 16 is a motion reappointing Jacob Wonderscheid to the Effective Fiscal and Public Policy Committee, deferred from February 23rd, 2026. I'll move that.
Second.
Passes 5-0. 17 is a motion appointing Brett Washcorn to the Effective Fiscal and Public Policy Committee, deferred from February 23rd, 26. I'll move that. Passes 3-2. 18 is a motion appointing Patrick McKinley to the Jillian Kosovo Sister City Committee, deferred from February 23rd, 26th. I'll move that.
Second.
Passes 5-0. 19 is a motion authorizing staff to draft an ordinance legalizing the utilization of ATVs and UTVs on specified city streets. I'll move that.
Second?
Mayor, I would like to motion that we defer that to a later date, to just give us time to meet with city staff and give it due diligence.
You want to create a little?
I want to create a work group and so we can really dive into this.
I'll second that.
I'm good either way with that. I respect either wanting to get, I think if we approve the direction to legal, that's what they're going to do anyway. And I think if part of the direction was to draft an ordinance, but put together a working group, I think they would do that. But I'm, either way, I'm comfortable.
I think we should probably delete it.
I'd like to do the work
I
first.
think you should delete if you don't have a specific date.
I think you could do it either way.
Yeah, I move
Okay,
to
well then,
delete it.
That's fine.
Oh, okay, hold up. So are you going to withdraw your motion to
I
defer?
withdraw it.
Okay. Then we can take a new motion.
Yeah, I move to delete until this item.
Second that.
So are they in the process right now of drawing up an ordinance copy? That's
Not
going to be,
yet.
that's what it come off there, okay.
That would have
Okay.
been the direction.
Only direction I would give, just kind of preliminary, is the UTV is, I don't know where the ATV kind of snuck in there. We're really mostly talking about UTVs, it seems like. I don't know if anybody's going to get on board with the ATV side of it, but the UTV is very intriguing and eventually deserves a vote, no doubt about it. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, and we're on the same page. But I just think that I keep reading this ATV thing, and I don't know if you're going to get, a lot of communities aren't supporting the ATV side of it, but the UTV side of it might be where we focus our efforts. Recommend on that.
Caleb is here if you want to
Where?
hear from a representative of legal.
Caleb?
Caleb Christopherson, Assistant City Attorney. Happy to answer your question.
Well, my hope too is that we all come together and give it due diligence so that we can talk about, and as you said, separate these two, make sure that we're not, making decisions that we.
Sure, definitely, practically as well as legally, they are different types of devices. Under Iowa Code, Chapter 321I, they are treated the same as far as functionally and then, as far as registration and operation, things of that nature. So they are subject to the same regulations, but we're not constrained to keep it that way.
How do they, DMV, separate the two?
Say again?
How does DMV or whomever separate the two?
Neither are subject to registration.
now they're under the
under
same.
Chapter 321.
Yeah, they're,
Right.
So my
These
que-
are all those
it's-
questions that
Yeah,
might be.
my question is that you're doing your research there, just could you point out, the bigger thing I want to see is what specifically other communities like Council Bluffs and everything else, what are they doing with, so not now, but just when the time comes, that's really is what we need to, because the idea that there's nobody is doing it is not correct. They're doing it all over the state, and even in communities our size. So if we're going to do this, let's just not reinvent the wheel. I think it's going to happen, but just a matter of what it looks like, and let's find a really good community that's doing it right, and let's get on
Let's
the
do
horn.
it right.
Talk to some sheriffs and some other people that are
Ike,
in those
what-
communities and see what they like and don't like about it.
Ike, what's your sense of who you'd like to be on the task force or the oversight committee?
Well, I think I'd be looking at legal, law enforcement, police department, sheriff's department, as well as even some citizen input.
I think we just need to get some citizen
Yeah,
input. I'm not
for
sure we
sure.
want
South
to.
Sioux has it approved, so maybe
That's how Sioux does.
they've got some
Yeah.
pretty strict
Hopefully it does, too.
registration constraints.
This is positive. Are UTV people here?
I think it's
This is
positive.
positive. This is really positive.
Yeah, we just want to do it right.
Yeah.
Now, you got, ma'am, you got to
Come on
come,
up.
got to come to the microphone.
It's like you should be on a committee.
I have a list of every city in the state that authorizes it, and unfortunately, it didn't print. They called all these cities, and there's a lot. And there's a lot of people that I have talked to myself about how they regulate it and the laws. Pretty much all of them
Are you seeing a differentiation between ATVs and UTVs as well?
I am not for ATVs on the street.
Okay.
Ma'am, could you state your name for the record, please?
Penny Tobin.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is the Iowa State one, and I think they have covered every possible. You got to have insurance, you got to have seat belts, you got to have turn signals. They've covered it all. No one under 18.
Pedometer, you have to have a roll
Yep.
cage,
Roll-
or you have to wear a helmet, right?
Nope, no helmet.
Oh,
Because you are completely enclosed in most of these. If you're not hard doors, they have door nets and they have safety belts. So if you want, I can give you guys these.
Are you allowed to scream like, woo, when you drive or not?
Gotta have a horn,
I was
beep, beep.
Just wonder if you're allowed to do that.
So, and I think they're far safer than,
Sure, go ahead and give those.
motorcycles probably.
Yep, give those
More
to Stephen. And- Yep, either way.
I'll take it. Thanks.
Have one, so I.
Yep.
I've talked to a lot of different people. I personally don't think ATVs should be on the street because there is nothing to protect you. Maybe helmets on ATVs, but it's still, if you get hit on an ATV, you're coming off. There's no seat belt, there's no restraints, there's nothing.
That's the motorcycle riders are the ones who've already said, well, what about motorcycles?
I'm a motorcycle rider.
Yeah,
I wear a helmet,
yeah,
and I know
hear
it's
ya.
dangerous out there, but you
I
gotta
hear
be
ya.
vigilant.
right.
But people in golf carts, there's a lot of stuff going on. Electric
know.
bicycles. They're
I
okay if they got pedals, but once you take the pedals off, that's a different story.
Yep, it is.
But you know, there's a lot of different stuff out there. I think UTVs are far safer than anything mentioned because you do have a roll cage,
Yep,
windshield, back window,
yep. Most of them have doors nowadays.
doors,
You can buy
stereos,
a car is
GPS.
cheaper than some of those.
I know, $52,000 for one is way beyond my paycheck.
Me too.
So we're thinking that we're going to put together a task force or an oversight group. Are you thinking 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
I was gonna say 90 days just to be safe, and then, you know. 90? Yeah.
So that gets us March, April, May.
And
So
if
that
it's
basically
summer,
June
'cause then
1st.
it's got to get written, then it's got to go to
June 1st.
people.
Should we say, why don't we say 60 days? Split the
That's a good
difference?
meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
That'll be good for Memorial Weekend.
there you go.
There you
Okay,
go.
that's our goal.
All right, thank
All right,
you.
thanks for your
you.
time. Thanks for the information as well.
Anyone else to be heard? Okay.
So the motion on the floor right now is to defer.
Second?
It's already got a second.
No, I thought we were
yeah.
going to delete.
To delete.
Or delete,
Change it,
sorry.
Remember? Yeah.
Bring it back.
Rayford,
Aye.
Shaner,
Aye.
Scott, Berenstein,
Aye.
Bertrand.
Aye.
Citizen concerns, are there any citizens that would like to be heard on anything? You got to come to the microphone and state your name, please.
And if you get it done sooner.
My name's Alan McGaffin. I want to make 2 points here. I'll change the direction I was going to go and stand opposed to ATVs and UTVs. Rex Mueller is opposed to those vehicles as well. I think our roadways are built for transportation rather than recreation. Now, I know a lot of motorcycles out there tend to take the roads for recreation, and that's why I find them a dangerous vehicle, and they add to the danger of just normal transportation. So I hope the task force considers those vehicles in a serious way. And if they don't, or if they do, I think we could look at some fees perhaps for the privileges of taking those on the roadways. I'd like to talk about the library.
Sir, I do think there are some limitations on permitting and the fee structure. The state governs the manner in which they can be permitted, so we're somewhat restricted, but appreciate your comments.
I think the state realizes the seriousness of the vehicles, and they say only certain roadways
Now they do.
for these. And
Correct.
in the city, there's an unlimited number of roadways, in fact. Now I want to move to the library budget. You spent a lot of time, I think, on Saturday talking about the library budget. I was concerned with the remarks in the paper yesterday. Councilwoman Schoner and Councilman Bertrand Both are talking about a very big and a sharp axe to the budget. I'd like it to be something less than 25%. And Councilman Berenstein suggested looking at the library board for some suggestions, and I hope that they can come up with some alternatives to what's been talked about so far. I'd like you all to walk into the Wilbur Alf sometime and see the number of people in there. Yes, the Wilbur Alf takes a big footprint in downtown Sioux City. So does the courthouse. And I think if you walked into Wilbur Alf's, you'd probably see more people in there at any given time than you would see in the courthouse. And there's children well-behaved under the supervision of librarians, parents. There's community members that are well-behaved. Some of them might be dozing at the table. Some of them might just be killing time. Some of them might be meditating. It is a very, very busy place, and the same can be said for the Morningside branch. I can't imagine those two buildings being abandoned and moved from. There are so many uses for those libraries, especially the main library. We're a repository of records. Some of the same arguments that went into the state argument about the state library this winter could apply to our city library. We just can't give it up. The library book sale every year raises a lot of money, raises some money for the library. I don't know if it's significant or not. Perhaps the library could consider raising their fees for those used books. It's a long 2-week stretch that they make sales, but it's a very well attended, very well supported by the community activity. There's got to be some ways to raise some fees, I understand, but I don't know if they could ever replace a 25% or a $1 million fee, which has been talked about. So let's give the library board a chance, and let's think it over and carefully. I just prize our libraries. As an old English teacher, don't cut my legs out from under me. Don't cut the readers.
Sir, that's not our intention, and we have
I know it.
and we did have 2 meetings with them in the fall of 2025.
Yes.
The board and staff, along with Helen, her entire team, and the board on 2 separate occasions. So this isn't a surprise that we wanted them to reimagine a new model. If budgets were as tight as they are, and we're finding them even tighter,
Yeah.
we afforded them the opportunity to say, if there were significant budget cuts, what would that look like? What could you envision the library? You're in the trenches, right? Yeah. What could it look like? And we were met with no interest, no suggestions, no model. So that's what brought us to now. And I was a part of those discussions, so I know that to be fact. Mm-hmm. There were no threats of closing the downtown library. There were no threats of cutting any kind of programming, no salaries, no layoffs, nothing. There was a proposal brought to them that said, if there were cuts to be made, what would another model look like if we were to reduce the footprint of the main branch?
Yeah.
Keep programming, but maybe 10% of the programming goes to each of the new smaller branches. The Morningside branch operates out of $450,000 a year. That's their budget of the entire budget. So what we were proposing is, people love the Morningside branch. We would never take the Morningside branch away.
Does the Morningside, excuse me, does the Morningside branch get to charge for use of that community room that's attached to the library?
I don't know. I just know that per our finance director, their operating budget consumes $450,000 a year of the overall $3.9 million that the library needs to operate.
That's a busy community room.
It is. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you know what? Nobody would want the Morningside branch to reduce. We like it that way. And could we make 2 other Morningside branches and then maybe a tiny bit larger downtown footprint? I don't know, but we were leaving that to Helen and the board to say this is what it would look like, or to say it can't. Here's our what we tried to work out, but we got 0 response out of 3 communications with them. So I'm just saying, this did not come out of the blue. where there are no threats of cutting, closing, nothing. I just want that to be clear. I was involved in that, and I know for a fact. So I appreciate you being here. I don't want the library to go away either.
Yeah, no.
But we're talking nearly $4 million, of which almost all of that is funded from taxpayers. It comes out of the general fund, which is property taxes. And that's what our constituents want us to do, is be mindful of that levy and those property taxes. We cut works, a project that people want to get rid of potholes and they want overlays. We have a new mill and overlay program that was approved last year. We haven't even laid down the blacktop for the first year of that program, and that program was already cut for over $2 million. So
What
it's not just the
percentage-
library, it's
what percentage-
everybody.
What percentage of what percentage of the total budget does the staff?
Well, we can't go by total budget because part of our budget are enterprise funds. The water ratepayers take care of that fund. The sewer ratepayers take care of that fund. So you see this big 200 and some odd million dollars. We collect around 65 million, is it, Therese, 67 million? Through property taxes. So that's where your percentage would come from, that fund, not the overall fund. So can anybody do the math quick? Where does the $4 million, it's 5% of the collected budget, that our general fund.
Property taxes.
Of the property taxes.
And you got to remember too, Julie did a great job there.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that the reporting on this sometimes is funny because it stirs people up. It gets people all excited. Oh my gosh, they're going to close libraries. They're going to, no, you got to remember that there's a reason why there's a bill in Des Moines being talked about with libraries and control of libraries with the boards, is because the only control that any city council has, and as I'm walking into this, is we don't have any control over content or operations or anything. All we can do is give them a block of money. Yeah. It's up to them. And so when we walk in there and we talk about modernizing the system, maybe making pocket libraries where more people can actually attend them, put them around amenities where people feel safer, those type of things, and having a smaller hub, again, being more efficient, just kind of modernizing the library system, then the board says no. And I think I heard the word impossible 17 times. It's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah. Well, the only control we have then to get their attention, because they cold shouldered the request last fall from the old council. So you have to throw stuff out there and say, well, if you're not going to respond to us, then you know what? Then maybe we'll cut $1 million of your budget and we're going to force you to come up with a new model. That's the conversation. That's not we're closing libraries and this and that. It's our only control is the dollars to change behavior. And the behavior is figure out a new model that serves more people and modernizes the library system. So that's what needs to be reported. So thank you for bringing this discussion. It's a great discussion. It's wonderful.
Yes,
thank
it
you.
is. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Alan.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to see you.
Mayor and Council, Alex Waters. Mike, I just wanted to thank you. I reached out to Mike last week asking for a deferral on the appointment, and I appreciated that very much, being home with family. And I just wanted to, I know we had some appointments today, and mine was deferred. I didn't know if we were doing a work group or a study session on my appointment to an active transportation committee, but it was proposed and seconded, and then 4 out of 1 of you supported a deferral, so I can come back next week if that apparently is more convenient for all of you. Or is there a reason is there a work group being discussed about my appointment to this committee? So just come back
There was a
next
request to
week.
defer it, so I assumed there was a need to do so, so I was supportive of that. Not an indication one way or the other on my part, just willing.
I just know usually there's discussion or at least an explanation for a deferral, so I didn't. But you guys defer things a lot more than I'd ever have seen, so I guess I'll just see you next week.
Sorry for your loss, too.
Yeah, we're sorry for your loss, Alex.
Hello, James Barrett, 1924 West 5th Street. I came to ask for your help today at 2000 West 5th Street east side parking, there's a tree that continues to drop limbs for 3 years now. Last year at tax time, I asked Bob personally if he could use his influence to help me because I'm getting nowhere with the city, and I would like some help on that. That's number one. Number two.
Can I ask, I don't want to interrupt,
Yeah.
but so 2000 West Fifth Street, is that public property, private property?
It's on the easement.
It's on an easement, okay.
Correct. The east side of the whole house. And it has been dropping pretty good-sized limbs for years now, and I can't seem to get anyone to help me. It's not that big a deal. We're talking a couple hours. Prince at the tree place, just been unbelievably difficult, along with his secretary. Terrible to deal with, honestly. So that's that. And the second issue I have is garbage cans. We have this rental property, and the house across the street moved in approximately 3 months ago. 4 garbage cans have been sitting out in the street, banging those lids for 3 months straight. So how I actually got it resolved was I called the police department, I believe, Saturday, and had to do a noise complaint to get it taken care of. These are 4 cans banging the lids. Go down that alley. I pick up that alley behind my house. I'm okay to do it, but they're not doing anything. I went to the city, they come out, it lasted for, 2 days, a day. The owner of the property came in, moved the can back, then they put them out there, all out there. All of the lids are open, and it's a landfill back there. It isn't right now because I just got done picking it up, but I would like some help with that.
And what's the address of?
That one is 1922 West 5th Street. If you go in the alley, it looks like a war-torn, it looks like a third world country. It's, like I said, it's not too bad because I just got done picking it up. But if you could help me with those, I'll try not to bother you again.
Mike, can you follow up on both of those?
Yep, I got that.
Mike will follow up on those.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, homeless task force operation.
Regular Police Department. I know that there's questions about our meeting with the judges. I don't know if Captain Groves is going to join me. I thought I'd give this quick statistics of the past 3 weeks. Normally we give you 2 weeks since we deferred this week's last week's presentation. I'll gloss over the details, and then Jill has a presentation. As we've spoken about in budget, obviously the police department isn't the only participant from the city side in the task force. Just activities of the past 3 weeks, and the collection period is February 2nd through February 22nd. Encampments located 14, cleanup operations conducted 5, new individuals contacted 20, and then partnerships and coordination. Obviously, we send these to you in the council updates, so you should have those. Every week, I feel like we have a new organization that the task force is engaging with to become more effective, and those are by and large private partnerships. So those are expanding. I would just check your list.
Hey, Chief.
Yes.
On the 14th 14 active now encampments, you're saying?
Encampments located, yes.
Located. So what's the time range between identifying it and throwing the big tire with the sign out?
That depends on how, so we expect and the officers are kind of the subject matter experts on that. If it's established, it kind of dictates how the city must proceed as far as somebody's property rights, and then it's posted. It could be one where it's fairly unestablished and the individual can be asked to move along and they take their belongings and it's done. So I don't get a breakdown of that, but a lot of that is based on the condition of the encampment. An established one, we definitely need to post.
Who puts the big tire and the sign on it?
Public Works.
Public Works does. So so I'm just trying to figure the process. As it gets warmer here, and Councilman Berenstein's driving down and he sees encampment, and who does he call to alert?
Well, it seems as though we get the first, and then we make the referral. So a lot of times, depends on who you go to, but usually the first call is to the police department, and then.
Where should it go?
Where should it go?
Where do you want it to go?
Well, to be quite honest, with the task force operating, they're hitting them quicker than we ever did before. So rather than waiting for it to go from here to there, to get action, we're doing the cleanups a lot faster with the operations of the task force, and they have identified common areas where these are evolving, and they're hitting those as part of their regular duties.
So these 14 that are identified, they're all tagged?
Not always. Like I said, it depends on the condition. Was it just established? Is it small? Is it of a large nature? We expect them to utilize appropriate judgment in dealing with that because we can't just throw away somebody's personal property.
But I mean, based upon when that tire with the tag on it hits the site.
24 hours.
It's 24 hours.
Yes.
So you see where I'm going with this. Speed, which is, we see it, who do we call? And we got a pickup truck with these tires and these announcements on it. Let's get the site served. Because I think the quicker we, defuse, I mean, we're doing great. Don't get me wrong, this is doing good.
I think that's
But it's about
exactly
speed.
what.
Yeah, that's why I asked if all 14 are tagged.
The,
We've seen them, let's.
And it also depends if that encampment's on.
Public or private property where we,
I
yeah.
had one of those, as you know, this
Yes.
last week, and it worked fine. It was cleaned, the people, were removed, and then the property owner just texted me to find some more information, and they were more than willing to get rid of the stuff, but they just want to make sure legally, can we throw this stuff away?
Yeah, they did the same thing
That's
down
it.
there.
That is,
Yeah.
the private property piece is a huge barrier because we then involve inspections and it becomes a more lengthy process. And especially if they choose not to or don't clean it up.
But it seems like a phone call from you guys. If it's identified on private property, it seems like a phone call from the PD seems to kind of motivate the owner. And
At times.
It has been, yeah. That's so far, my experience so far has been 2 for 2.
Property owner.
You guys call the private and they kind of go, yep, we'll get it off. I mean, it's been pretty good, so.
Not everybody is responsive, but we're doing our best. But again, if it's public property, that's fairly easily rectified. But again, I think just the presence of the task force, and credit to Captain Groves and the officers and staff who are dealing with that, I think we're getting to things, identifying things much, much quicker than we were before. So, and I'll let Captain Groves comment about the meeting with the judges. I think it's very positive meetings. You want
to? Chris Groves, Uniform Services Captain. Touch base on that a little bit. As the chief mentioned, the process is going to be faster because of the homeless task force. In the past, we would get the call, then we would call Public Works, and then it's based on their schedule, go out and serve that. Having those people or having those divisions work together every day.
Captain, do you have a single point of contact at Public Works? Who do you call?
Well, right now, we're just dealing through the, and I just lost his name. Who's working? Dan Hutton is, not Hutton, Harstead, Dan Harstead is the one assigned to that task force. So they're going out and finding them, and if they need to tag them, that's what they're tagging. But as long as we keep somebody from Public Works, whether it's parks or streets, as long as we keep somebody in that task force, that's our go-to.
Okay. I'm just saying, it'd be nice to have an identified person. I'm sure you're saying you do, right?
Yep, right now we do. It's all falling under that task force. We'll get it out and we'll get them served. The judges' meeting was very positive. What we've learned most about this homeless task force is there's things happening that we don't know about. There's things that are happening or that go on that we make assumptions and we make statements that may not necessarily be 100% accurate. A lot of the conversations that have happened in this room and what we learned was the judges listened to these meetings or at least gotten back to them. And if they are listening, we need to make sure we understand. There's been a lot of discussion about taking people to jail and getting out within 2 hours. And I think that was a frustration for the judges. And we lose emphasis on that. That's a lot of dealing with the trespass. The trespass really has very little teeth, just the way that the law is written, that it's a civil, it's a fine is all we can do. We did talk about a loitering.
The trespass people do not go to jail.
You can take them to jail, but they can't hold them in jail.
Unless they have some public intox or something.
Right, if there's another criminal offense attached to it.
Or if they have a warrant out or something.
Correct.
Like
But it's a big inconvenience when they got to go down there and get processed.
That's what I like.
That's what I like about it too. It's an inconvenience for your
Yeah, so,
trespass.
but I think a lot of the conversation we were talking about was,
You felt like
if we're dealing with these people, these habitual offenders, if you will, that getting in and out of jail is not deterring that. We're just continually dealing with those folks. And that came up in the meeting, and we had to backpedal a little bit. We're kind of mixing things together. And you're right, you're bringing, if it's public intox, if it's interference with official acts, if it's a warrant, they can hold those people in jail.
Let the judges know, if you're listening, that we apologize for that, but that's perception and it's
Exactly.
public perception.
And
And that's the input of information that we get. Is,
Yep.
oh, I saw them, they're out 2 hours later.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we hear about is the trespass. I mean, we deal a lot of trespass, just people being in places they're not supposed to be, and that is a revolving door, and there's really not a lot we can do about that. It's just factual. But the judges were very receptive of these, again, habitual offenders that we're constantly dealing with. If they are intoxed, interference over and over and over again, that we're working on ways to make our affidavits better. The county attorney's office will work with us, go in front of the judge, and, I mean, they're not, by no means, they're not saying we're going to do 30 days and they're going to be gone, but they are willing to do.
Captain, that was one of the things when I spoke with the judges. Number one, they liked you guys coming in, and they are listening, and they do want to be part of the solution. One of the things they said, they asked us to share, and it was a great conversation, was when the guys are writing them up, the specifics are the key, and I know they gave you that feedback, is the more details they get, the more they can get sticky. And that was one thing they shared with me. And then the other one they asked about was a homeless court. Jill, is that you?
Yes, that is me.
Because they wanted some answers on that, so I'm sure they're listening. Could you give us a little explanation of what, I've never heard of it, and I don't think they did either.
Okay, so we're kind of in the beginning stages still. So Homeless Court is an initiative that we are the pilot project for the state of Iowa here. The state of Iowa wanted to give it a try, so the Iowa Finance Authority provided $25,000 to the city of Sioux City to do this pilot project here. So we have in turn partnered with the American Bar Association. They're a consultant on it. And basically, long story short, it's similar to Project Compass. If there's people that have charges, fines related for crimes that are typically related to homelessness, like maybe they have a bunch of trespass fines, they have public intox, they have things like that. We decide locally what we want to focus on. They can select a case manager of their choosing from any of our agencies that they're working with. They go through a whole process similar to Project Compass. And then at the end, if they graduate from the program, they get those fines and other things released. So it's a way to remove those barriers to housing. So we're the first in Iowa to try it. We're going to see how it goes. One of the things that we also do with that is a same-day service fair. So we had our first one about a month ago. We have another one coming up actually on St. Patrick's Day. And so that's where you have a lot of agencies coming together. The DOT will be there, really just doing same-day things. What can we do to remove these barriers, like having the Iowa DOT issue actual IDs on site. We're trying to get the county there to do birth certificates as well. Things that we just can get people moving faster into housing is what we are trying to do with that program.
I'm glad I heard you say county. We really have got to marry the city and the county and these processes together. We really do. So I'm glad to hear that they're going to be on board with that.
So everything we talked with the judges have been shared with our staff, and you're right, the affidavits, we talked about the affidavits, is a little more details. I made it very clear to our staff, though, it's not every public intox. Not if you're arresting some 25-year-old on 4th Street, we don't need to have them in jail for 30 days. That's not the point. We got to deal just with our habitual and make sure our affidavits are a little bit more detailed. So that's all been shared.
Keep working. Good job.
Captain Groves.
We do appreciate it.
Before you go,
yes,
I would like to thank you on behalf of this council for pushing this task force. I think you dreamed it up. Was it your idea? Yes.
Wasn't really my idea. I brought it here from somewhere else.
It was your idea. Don't be too humble. I would like to acknowledge that and to say thank you so much for taking the lead on this. I don't know how long you're going to hold these reins. It might be longer than you ever dreamed, but we'll see.
Or it could be shorter than we ever dreamed.
It could be. We don't know. We don't know. We'll see how it goes. I know you're still gathering data, and I think you're doing a great job, and I just want to thank you and commend you for that.
So, and I think it's public, and I say this, and I am retiring at the end of the month. So it's.
What we heard.
That's right. I didn't want to say that.
So Captain Bertrand will be my replacement, yep. And I'm trying to get him caught up in speed. He's kind of taking over some of the stuff, but yeah. But thank you.
Thanks for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
You've been a pleasure to work with.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to provide a little bit, we're going to kind of do a different twist, I guess, to what we've been discussing the rest of the weeks when we do, or when Chief does an update. So what I'm going to do is go over kind of how the city fits into everything that's happening with homelessness in our community and a ton of stats. We are the keepers of what's called the coordinated entry list. So we have a plethora of information on everyone that we're doing intakes on that's experiencing homelessness. So there's a lot of interesting information that I just want to go over really quickly. I will go fast. So please interrupt me if you have any questions as we go. Whenever I get asked, or our staff gets asked to speak a lot about homelessness out in the community, I always like to remind everyone in the beginning that we do other things besides homeless services. We have 5 areas we primarily work in, from housing rehab, public services, public improvements, and affordable housing creation are other areas. This is our current organizational chart. There are 10 of us working in a multitude of different areas. And we have a couple nonprofits under our umbrella too. What's unique about us is we are about 99.9% federal and state funded. The only local dollars we have is for the bus ticket relocation program and a little bit of local dollars for our audit for our one nonprofit, our housing trust fund. Everything else comes from a mix of competitive and entitlement grants. So our budget can fluctuate quite a bit. Last year it was over $7 million. Or this current fiscal year. So trying to get as much money into the city as possible for what our needs are.
And I do want to say that because your department does such a great job, your monies have been recognized, funding, and some of them have gone up because of that. You don't leave the money sitting around, you put it to action.
Yeah, the state will usually contact us if they have extra funding because we can spend it. So we have a lot of need here. So you might hear a lot about the COC or the Continuum of Care or Steel Line Coalition in Homelessness. That is all the same thing. The federal government requires if you're going to use federal dollars to help anyone that's experiencing homelessness, you have to have what's called a Continuum of Care, which is a big group of agencies, providers that come together to discuss needs related to homelessness. They also work on all the grant applications together as a team to get that money into Sioux City. So for the city of Sioux City, we get 3 grants out of the Continuum of Care. It is the planning grant. We're the lead agency of the Continuum of Care, so that pays for some of our staff time. We have our coordinated entry, which I'll talk about a lot, but that is where we're actually interviewing all of these people that are coming into our office to see what their needs are, and then scoring them, do all sorts of things. And then our homeless management information system, that's actually the software that we're required to use that tracks all of the people that we're talking to. And then Safe Place and Safe Place and Heartland Counseling, they both also get grants for permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing. So all told, there's over 50 agencies and organizations that meet every other month to go through funding, to go through needs, issues out in the community. So it's been a pretty good group. So how do we fit into this? Like I said, we are the lead agency. So Clara on our staff, she actually serves as a secretary. It's a separate board, separate 501c3. And then our main part of kind of what we do when it relates to homelessness is coordinated entry. And so we are the ones doing all of the intakes. We're the ones managing that list. We're very unique in the state of Iowa in that everyone else in the state uses a third-party consultant to do the list. We do it here locally because we get faster real-time information, we're able to make changes faster, and we're just more in the know about what's going on out there in real time.
Which can make a real difference when you're handling it and not someone who's not.
Yep, the main thing to remember too is a lot of times you might hear people say, I've been on this list forever, blah, blah, blah. When you do an intake and you're asking a million questions, everything from your medical history, if you're a sex offender, if you're a vet, if you work, just a million things. And then you're assigned a score based on basically how much assistance you do need. And so it's ranked from the top to the bottom. So if you're at the very bottom with the amount of people that we have on a list at any given time, you're probably not gonna get a referral. One thing too to always keep in mind is everyone on that list is literally homeless. They have to be at a shelter, they have to be staying outside in a car or a camper, abandoned building, that kind of thing, or fleeing domestic violence and not having a support system. We have a lot of people that call us or stop by our office that'll say, oh, I'm couch surfing, or I'm staying in a hotel, but I'm running out of money. HUD and the federal government says we cannot assist to that at all. We're only focusing on those people that are reporting that they are literally homeless. When they do say things like that, though, where they just need some assistance, we try not to, just send them on their way. We do try to also refer them to other services.
Is there a time frame that a person has to be homeless, or if they just say that?
Nope, just the night before. Good question. Yep. So that's why we have significantly more people in need of housing assistance than program openings. So this is kind of an eye-opening thing for most, because I think a lot of people think, which is true, we have a lot of great services in Sioux City, but if you're looking for literal housing programs where you're going to be put in a place or referred to a place to live, we don't have a whole lot. We have 33 units through permanent supportive housing. Safe Place has 22 units, and that's tied to domestic violence. And then FAVA, they're a great partner. That's Family Alliance for Veterans of America. Their number of units varies based on need, but typically 5 or under. So every time they meet, which is every 2 weeks, those agencies are taking referrals for what they have openings for, and we just honestly don't have a lot. So when people are waiting on the list, our staff's providing birth certificates, social security cards, state tribal IDs. We're referring to services. We help with Section 8 applications and security deposit assistance too. So I'm going to transfer kind of to our stats. And Clara in our office has done a phenomenal job. She is our HMIS administrator. So she wears lots of hats, but that's one really important thing, many important things that she does, but where she's kind of the keeper of all these stats and numbers. So we did calendar year just to make it easier. So over the calendar year 25, we had 1,054 individuals on that list at any given time within 755 households. 103 of those 755 households had one child under the age of 18. Our staff in calendar year 25 did 565 intakes, which is a lot. That can range depending on their background. It can take anywhere from half hour to an hour where you're asking very personal questions. 246 of the people over that 1,000, we're going to go back to that 1,000, identified as being chronically homeless. That means that they have a disability and they've been homeless for at least 12 months or more. Or that over the last 3 years, they've had 4 or more instances of homelessness that total that 12 months. 26 self-reported, and I like to say self-reported too, because I like to remind everyone, this is what they're telling us. So we're taking what they're saying and entering into the system. We're not third-party checking it. 655 people self-reported having a disability, 26 reported as requiring to register as a sex offender, 27 people self-reported as veterans. It's been a very interesting learning process for me too, because I didn't realize, depending on their discharge status, what they're eligible for. So someone might say to you, hey, I'm a veteran, I'm having a hard time getting services. It might be because of what their discharge status was.
So it could be a dishonorable discharge, something like that.
Yeah, we've had some that have come in for sure. Just some other interesting stats to share. Average client age, again, this is over that 1,000 people. Our highest category is between 35 and 44. We've seen over the last few years that these stats have started to range up both here and nationally. Gender, we also hear a lot about, oh, there's more male than female that are homeless. We're not seeing that locally. It's about 50-50. I mean, there's not a significant difference between the two. Client race and ethnicity, this is always an interesting topic of conversation too, because of the way that it relates to our community as a whole. So you can see the largest, 404 people self-reported as white. And this is the breakdown of percentage. So if you look at our community as a whole, 66% of our community is white, and on our list it's about 38%, so it's underrepresented. Native American, about 2% of our population as a whole is Native American, and 21% identified as Native American. Hispanic, Latino, Latina has also underreported. About 22% of our population identifies as Hispanic and Latino, Latina, and about 7% of our list is self-reporting that. Sorry, this is so small, but it gives you some idea of what people are reporting to for physical and mental health conditions and how many conditions they have. So 404 people, again, of that 1,000 are reporting they have a mental health disorder. And then you'll see 282 reported chronic health condition. Those are the two. And then physical disability is right in there too. And then a number of how many conditions they have at the start. So you see several people have several comorbidities. Income, we also ask about income. So 34% of again, that 1,000 people about had income of some kind. The largest is Social Security and Social Security disability, followed by earned income. That just means that they have a job. And they're earning income that way. And then the rest are kind of smaller amounts there.
Have you found any cases where you can help a person get Social Security or?
Yes. So what we started to do years ago is there's a program called SOAR. And if there's ever anyone that wants to donate any money to this would be a great thing for our community. You can get SOAR certified, meaning you can help people that can be on Social Security disability work through that program way faster. So if you have that certification, it takes, you might hear people say, I'm trying to get on disability for a year or two. It can be as short as 3 to 6 months. And so Clara in our office was actually trained and certified, but it's so, takes such a significant amount of time. You really need like a probably multiple full-time staff people in our community, to be honest, to make a difference. But that would be a great thing in our community, and it would fill a gap because there's several people that we talk to every day that
As a volunteer program?
that really should be on disability. Volunteer or, a paid position in some organization. But definitely a need here. And then this is what people self-report to us, again, self-reporting, of where their last permanent residence was. So if you look at the map and the responses, it's not totally surprising because a lot of our subsidized rental units are in these areas. And if that was maybe they were on the bubble, they were having a hard time staying housed, they probably are going to report that that was their last permanent residence. That didn't really surprise us. So the majority downtown, west side, midtown. And then we have a few from outside the city, South Sioux City, Sergeant Bluff, Lamar's, Macy, Winnebago. So at the end of all this, what's happened last year? And it definitely underscores what we have for resources here when it comes to actual housing. So we had 70 referrals, but keep in mind there were 1,000 people on that list at some point throughout the year. So 70 referrals were made, 18 were successful, so 18 out of that 1,000 people that we talked to were housed. 31 were rejected by the client, either they refused whatever service was offered or they didn't contact them, and 18 were rejected by the provider, they didn't meet some type of requirement. 648 were exited for no contact after 60 days. We try to keep our list very accurate and clean, so if we don't hear, we tell people to check in with us every week. Oh, yeah.
So what happens when you have your 31 rejected and 18? What happens?
Then we send them more referrals until they fill their spots. So since there were only 18, that means there were 18 openings in those programs I mentioned earlier. And so that's why 18 were full. But yeah, if someone doesn't respond, Claire is sending them new people all the time. And so we tell people to check in with us every week. We want to know what they're up to, if they found housing, if they found employment, if their phone numbers changed. We want to have that contact. And then 86 people self-resolved, meaning maybe they started staying with a family member or they got housing on their own. So as of today, and our list is ever changing, we update it every day. We have 265 people on the list in 217 households. I just threw this in there because I know there's always some curiosity about how that works, but they have to be literally homeless. They have to have support where they are going. We say it has to be at least 3 hours away, and it's one-time assistance, one-way transportation. So last calendar year, about $25,000 was spent relocating 135 people. So far this calendar year, we've spent about $5,800 on the relocation of 32 people.
And are those general fund dollars, those aren't grant dollars, correct?
Right, general fund. Yeah, we don't have a grant that covers that has that as an eligible expense.
Yeah.
So kind of my final slide here is what do we do with all this information? So like I've said before, we have wonderful resources here as far as services and things like that, but when it comes to literally housing people, we just don't have a lot of units here. And so what we've really focused on here in the last 6 months or so is increased focus on getting resources together for those that are on the list, especially lower on the list. Those are often people that might have a little income. They just might need a lot of assistance filling out a Section 8 application, for example, or things like that. So they'll come into our office, our staff will help with that. Again, offering the busing. We also will apply for funds wherever we can get them for projects. So recent successes was Midtown Terrace. We partnered on Asher and East High Lofts. Those are both LIHTC projects that we put money in as well as a city. We got a new funding source from IFA for rapid rehousing, so that'll start shortly. And then we're hoping for some successes coming up, which would be the Webb Apartments. Council just approved that letter of understanding. So they're applying for LIHTC again. That's the former Lamb Theater over in Cook Park. That would be several affordable units. And then the former Jewish Community Center. We are doing some conceptual work right then, and we'll be going after some grant funds for that project too.
Bill, can you back up and go over what that means with the Midtown Terrace, the Asher Apartments? It means so many apartments that they dedicate.
Yep, so Midtown Terrace, that was a project that the mayor actually resurrected a couple years ago. So when we received National Housing Trust Fund dollars, and that'll be 24 units total. 17 will be permanent supportive housing, and then 7 will be your typical affordable housing units. And then Asher and East High Lofts. Asher is the new building that was built over on the Everett School site, and then East High Lofts was the old East Junior that was rehabbed. Asher has 3 units and East High has 5. So the city put money into that and some of our grant funds into both of those projects, but said, hey, you need to set aside some of these units for those that are transitioning from homelessness. So that's been really good. And they've both partnered with Heartland Counseling to provide case management for those.
Those people that just are getting out of homelessness get continuum care so that we're helping them to be successful. They're getting out of
transitional.
Yep.
And then rapid rehousing, that was ESG funding we just got from the state. We haven't gotten money from the state to do this before, so that was really exciting. And that'll provide case management from our staff and up to 6 months of rental assistance to get them stabilized before we kind of step away, and then they pay their rent going forward. Webb Apartments is a little different. That's just a typical, we don't have any units that we're setting aside for homelessness, but they all are 152 units, all affordable. And then the Jewish Community Center, we are looking at a mix, again, of permanent supportive housing there and your typical affordable units. Also, we've been very active with the Homeless Task Force, of course. We have one staff person that's dedicated to street outreach most of their time. So they do that with the task force and then also on their own. And then also the homeless court model, like I talked about before, is something new we're trying. We're always looking for new ideas and different approaches to try. So in a nutshell, I know I provided a ton of information, but I just thought that was good to kind of go over what happened the last year and what does all that mean. And then if you have more questions, I can definitely do more research on what we have going on.
I do. Do you feel that Agape, once they're built, up and running, it's going to have a significant impact to us as well?
I do. I think that's a great thing. Yeah.
They have no place to go. They'll be able to go to Agape, get in that program, stay out of jail, stay off the streets, and it's up to 18 months. Is that?
Yeah. If you see here between, drugs and alcohol, that's a significant percentage of the people that we're talking to.
Right.
So,
Right.
So yeah, absolutely.
And that's men's housing strictly.
Starting with men's, and then they'll grow to women's.
One question only. On the bus program, that we just put a little more, hopefully, resources for you, how do they find out about it? Do we have a sign like posted down at the transit center that says, homeless, not from here, we can help, free ticket? I mean, is there anything, are we posting like this? I mean, something that's going to help point you in the right direction?
Yes.
Or do you got to stumble upon them?
Well, so we get referrals from agencies all the time, including the warming shelter, and then also the person that works at the Greyhound office walks people down to us quite frequently. So it's typically he's seeing someone there, bringing him down, or the warming shelter, or what other agency's been talking to someone saying, oh, you're not from here and you want to go home? Okay.
Would you consider posting something like that in different places or something? I mean, if we can put up a sign that says don't give to the poor, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there's key areas we know that
Yeah.
this is happening. I mean, I
Sure.
would think is, free ticket home, homeless, not from here, free ride, and here's how to reach out.
Yeah.
It starts the dialogue, and then maybe they stay and get
Yeah.
the services they need. Sometimes I wonder how I think some of these people, if they're cold and they're stuck here and they don't know, and if they knew this was available, call Jill, she's friendly. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we just need that. I hate to say it, advertise it, but we kind of need to
Yeah.
advertise it versus.
I think the only reason we haven't done that in the past because we didn't have as much money
Well, you do now.
to fund the program. So yeah, absolutely. Definitely. We'll do that.
Cool, good job.
Thank you so much, Jill.
Thanks,
That's
Jill.
very enlightening.
Hey, before we get off that, Mr. Mayor, you help me out on this one. The kind of the brownstones that are across the street, or Julie, you've been around, the brownstones that are across the street from the warming shelter. I'm not asking a question. I don't know the answer, but that's kind of my route now. I'm starting to take that route more. Can you give me just an update on what's the story on
Darryl
this
King.
thing? Okay, Darryl King. What?
Well, they put up $100,000 bond and they haven't done a darn thing.
They were going to have her all done.
So it doesn't need to be a 20-minute.
No.
It seems like it's just not doing anything. It's getting worse and worse quickly.
I've moved forward several times to work towards getting that torn down. Seems like everybody wants to come ahead right when I'm ready to start tearing it down. And we most recently had that, and I asked for $100,000 bond this time to make sure that they were very serious about doing that. They did provide information for us as far as funding sources and things like that, so I was able to bring that back. However, they have failed to move forward to do anything since that time. So I do have communication out. I'm waiting for a reply back from the owner of the property.
Because they're tagged, aren't they?
I'm going to move
They're
forward.
tagged, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. They're ordered demolished.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're ordered demolished. So we gave a 90-day stay of demolition here, and it's been about 90 to maybe 120 days ago now.
Already.
And so I've reached out to the owners and let them know that I'm going to be moving forward with that
Get
demolition.
a bid and
So-
get it out.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks, Darryl.
All right. My slides for me. Baker, Assistant Public Works Director.
Cameron Bell, Pretreatment Manager.
We're asked to present on odor. So the agenda will be, odor is very complex, so we're going to try to give you the information you're looking for. We're going to talk about the odors in the city, what we currently do, lift stations, and then maybe some intermediate options for you to consider. So what causes odors in the sewer? So this slide's kind of busy, so just kind of focus your attention there where it says H2S being less than 1 is low, and greater than 10 is high. Sioux City has numerous spots where it's 10 and several spots that's 100 parts per million. And then the DDT is a fancy way of, it's a scientific way of telling you the strength of waste or a smell. And so, of course, less than 200 is low and greater than 2,000 is high. And Sioux City has numerous sources of 50,000, and sometimes the scale went all the way up to 600,000 when we did some testing. And of course, the major concerns are safety to staff, public, community impacts, and then of course our infrastructure. It comes from organic waste, the loading
was
of the
that
plant. Sorry.
Where were those measurements taken from?
We actually send in samples through Hazen, through
But
our
where were they
facility
collected?
plan. What?
Where were they collected?
All over.
I think I'm remembering that.
Yep. So what our current approach to odor control is, Cameron is in charge of the odor control contract and making sure they meet the requirements of their contract as well as the industrial regulations. So these are all of our dosing sites. We have them there at Riverside, Bridgeport, Highway 75. We use a Sulfalox, which is a proprietary iron product. And then there's other dosing locations there, Cunningham, which is that Floyd lift station, the wastewater treatment plant, and York, which is down by that ball field. And we inject hydrogen peroxide. We do have a couple of industry people and sister cities that also inject chemicals, but there's the gallon totals for chemicals of 2025 there on the screen. So the city spent $662,000 just on odor control at those dosing sites last year. Go ahead. Currently, we also cover our primary clarifiers. Those are the tanks that we're currently fixing with that ARPA money because of the high-strength waste going through those tanks. We also have foul order fans on the Headworks building and as well as a biological system in Headworks. It's undersized and it's not operating as designed, so it's really not doing anything. But those,
Can you go back to that?
Yep.
That's the last one, where you had, no.
Backwards. That one.
So so your usage is based on the gallons of what goes through each one of those lift stations?
Right, so that's how many gallons of those chemicals that we actually put into the system. Yep. And so like Floyd was 17,775 gallons of hydrogen peroxide in 2025.
Is that because that's bigger than, say, Highway 75, or?
No, it's the odor control company. It has, through their studies and having the contract, they've determined that's the proper chemical for those sites. And so they owe all the infrastructure, or
And
the
what's being
capital.
fed to them, right.
Got a heavy packing house, you're gonna have to do more like York than you would do up in Iowa.
Yeah, it's based on what's kind of going in there. Yeah. So the contract company also owns all of the flow meters and the tanks that sit there, so they own all that capital as well. Go ahead. Keep going, one more. Okay, so after phase one improvements, so this is, Hazen did a odor dispersion modeling through a lot of our odor control sampling. And after phase one improvements, it's projected to reduce odors from 26, right now 26% of hours in a 5-year modeling period, you can detect an odor. So after phase one, it's projected to only detect 0.1%. And so that's the map there that you see. So that's that scale of D to T that I talked about on the first couple of slides. So the red, the orange, the yellow, that's how far those odors will disperse after phase one.
So Vicki, I thought about this after you presented this on Saturday, this slide in particular.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about the contractors, we're putting it out to bid. And the construction of this. Do we have any reach back guarantees, or do we have anything we can put into what we're building that we can reach these things? I mean, does that make any sense?
I'm not quite.
These are what they're telling us. What's the penalties if they build it and it doesn't do this? Which is what Mr. Mayor always says happens, right? Is that they promise, and then it doesn't do what it say it's going to
That'd be a legal
do.
question.
But I think let's open up our minds as we're in this new process. Do other communities do that, or is there?
I'm not sure. You'd have to go back on the engineer, right?
I don't know. Is there penalties on if you're not producing what you say it's going to do? It's not doing what it's supposed to do. Let's just open our minds to that. Anyway, let's keep going. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I think also on Saturday, you said it's just a matter of money.
Well, for chemicals, yeah. Yeah, it is a matter of money. Okay, so phase one there on your screen now is the upgrades. So the bluish, purple, whatever color that is, that's improved ventilation, those fans, odor control removal in that building. The red is our high odor processing places in the plant. So that's, instead of the rectangular clarifiers with the new plant, we're going to have circular ones. So we're going to pull the odors off of that, and then of course a couple of the other buildings. The green is we're not getting any odors from that side of the plant. That's the secondary process. That's the final steps. And then the orange is where the new systems for this odor control are going to go, in those locations there. And this is kind of what the systems will look like. They're biological. They also have activated carbon. They also have a 30-foot exhaust stack. So of course it will go up and further disperse. And the price of these systems will be 30 to 35 million of that phase one cost right now. So we'll have the bigger system will be on the front half, and then that smaller system will be to pull some other odors in the plant. So.
Are those firm numbers or still subject to?
Well, that's the design numbers. Yeah. All right, so also we tasked our engineers to look at our heavy, what we feel is our heavy odor area lift stations, and also where we get a lot of the complaints from. So outside of this project, we've asked Hazen to also look at what we would need to do at these places. So Riverside Lift Station, the Floyd Lift Station there on I-29, and then York. So the vapor phase system needs to go at some of them. Liquid phase and vapor phase needs to go at some of them. Your liquid phase will be your chemicals, and your vapor phase would be the system I just showed you. So a liquid phase system is not currently what we use. It's a different system that we're thinking about. So that's outside of the project, but we're expected for vapor phase a 95% reduction in odors at those lift stations. So again, the same systems would go there for that vapor phase treatment, the biological filters with the carbon, and then the exhaust stacks. And then the next slide will show you the liquid phase treatment. It's a super oxygenation system. Basically, it pulls wastewater out of the force main, injects oxygen, and puts it back into the force main to hopefully keep it with enough dissolved oxygen in it, so by the time it gets to the plant, it doesn't stink along the way. But that is for downstream. All liquid phase things are for downstream treatment. Vapor phase is for at that specific site. So we plan on installing that at, well, part of the, go back one more. We plan on Floyd and York for those super ox. And so the next slide is the trial we ran. So we ran this trial to try to mimic what that super oxygenation system is going to do. And it actually came out, and all we did was dose with a whole bunch of hydrogen peroxide over the course of a week. Cameron and his team led that study, and it showed exactly what the engineers were hoping it would do, and basically proves that we can put super oxygenation at that lift station and that we should get reduced odors downstream. Again, it won't help the smell at Floyd. That's why we're also putting the biological filter, because the biological filter will help at the smell at Floyd. The super oxygenation helps downstream. So that's where that additional cost would come in. Right now we spend, like I said, $55,000 a month. If we were to do this, we would need $150,000 per month. Basically, that's what that study was that we talked about on Saturday. Go ahead. All right, other options. Of course, you know, sewer plants smell, but we also want to be very good neighbors, so we're doing our best. Fixing the primaries will help. Also, the digester project with the high-strength waste injection system is going to help. Staff does not recommend it, but you could shut off hauled waste. We are a huge help to the haulers in our community by taking that hauled waste and also outside the community to get rid of that organic waste. So that is an option to shut that off. Again, and we do not recommend that. And then further regulation. What's that? Some used to go to the landfill. They'd have to, some go to Des Moines. No, yeah. We actually take trucks, the DNR will call us and be like, hey, can you take it? Because there's small communities
We
that
want to be
have waste, yes, yeah. No, there's wastewater plants. I get quite a few calls from the DNR asking for places in our region if we can take stuff, because even the smaller communities can't take the waste, so.
Get paid.
Yep. We can take what we want. And then, of course, we can update code for further industrial upsets and things like that, putting the burden back on, you know, if they cause the odor. But otherwise, yes. So we take in septic waste as a one flat fee, and then the hauled waste comes in and it's based on flow. And Cameron's team, again, they do all the billing, and the lab does the sampling for all of that. So, yeah, it's a tiered structure based on pollutants. But I think that's it. You have any questions about the contract? The contract, it was, I believe, a 5-year contract with 2 one-year extensions. We're on that last extension, right?
With our odor control vendor.
Yeah, so that will expire June 30th, so we will be bringing forward a new option, maybe stay with the current. But we're going to bid that contract out. We are going to bid it out. Yep. The last time we bid it out, we actually ran trials And we got, we actually had people pilot their chemicals, and we bid it out. There was, I think, 4 people that were interested, but then only 3 people ended up bidding back, and the bids were, US Peroxide was significantly lower than the other bid, so. But, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What I wanted to ask, was there any performance on those contracts? No, performance, if it's, I mean, if they.
Odor measure?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that when this contract gets drawn up, make it sure that we.
Hey, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening. We don't have anything as exciting or as sophisticated as superoxygenation to talk about. We'll do our best.
Say superoxygen.
I wasn't sure I could say it.
I wasn't sure I could either.
A few things about the permit process. As you know, we are continuing to work on upgrading our software and doing really going to a different system altogether. We did have a meeting, a conference call today with Central Square, that's the software provider, and with our IT department. Central Square did select a new project manager, so this was our first opportunity to talk to the new project manager. We're in the phase right now, probably for the next 2 weeks. There's been a lot of technical work going on. They're installing the software. They're doing a test environment because this involves payments online and so on, very similar to what we do for utilities, but a little bit different. And that's being done over the next 2 weeks. And at the end of that, or probably sometime next week, we've requested a firmer timeline for the steps after that, which would be the first, after everything is installed and tested, then we will move to the configuration phase, and that's when our team gets back together and talks about the particular details and how it will look and how it will function. And then when that's completed, then we'll move to the training of the staff. Everyone involved with permitting, everyone involved with zoning, inspections and so on will be trained on that software. So we're really looking forward to that. It's taking longer than I guess we would have liked, but it is pretty complicated to integrate that into the software the city already owns. And so the other thing was we continue to provide you with these reports. I think we've talked a little bit about improving the formatting of these are a little hard to read, they get so detailed, but, and of course, when we have the software up and running, and we'll be able to generate reports from that. But if you have any questions about what we're doing this weekly, Daryl is here, of course, and he can answer any specific questions. We've been in a period of time where we haven't had as many, it's a little slow time of the year, but it's starting to pick up now, so we'll be looking harder at how that goes, and with the increase in permits. It always happens at this time of year when people get ready to build. So
yeah. We've had over a dozen. I would say there's probably been 14 to 16 that have actually come in this last week, and we do have a vacation coming up, so we're going to work really hard on trying to get all those knocked out prior to the vacation for the plans examiner coming up. Looks like we're in pretty good pace to do that. We are waiting for a bond on a couple of them, things like that, but other than that, I think they're going through pretty good.
It's after that first couple of weeks of, it was kind of intense and a lot of finger pointing and all that good stuff. I do think we're seeing progress, because the only reason I know that is because the text messages that I'm getting from some of the developers and stuff. And there's an element of excitement out there that we're changing. They're excited, we're getting there. Yeah. My fear is, we don't get complacent, but we're going to get busy. And I know you're focused on it, Daryl. I know you are, and I do appreciate it. Yeah. Let's get it to the field. Slowest to the fastest, most unfriendly to the friendliest. Customer service, get it to the field. Get it to the field inspectors.
I do have a couple of projects that I really are a little concerned about. We're not getting a lot of feedback from the people that have made the application, so we've actually asked if we can put those on hold status till they're ready to move forward. I'm actually going to reach out to one of them because I'm a little concerned that they're not actually understanding everything we're looking for, and it's a lot simpler than I think they're trying to make it. So we'll be making some of those meetings like we've talked about in our first initial presentation, reaching out to them and being a little more proactive in that response.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council concerns.
No, I always appreciate the updates. that we're getting provided, and I mean, I do feel like I have a little wind at our back when it comes to the economic development side of it. I just want to continue to urge the builders and potential investors or potential developers, if they're feeling any unreasonable resistance, to please reach out to this council or me personally, and we can help, because again, we have goals. We want to be the worst to the first. Also, I talked about this on Saturday. I want to make sure the media picks this up. That Julie gave me a look on Saturday. I thought she was going to look to kill, but I want to compliment Craig and Ike, this new council, and the success we've had with snow removal since we've joined. We're under budget, and we've done an amazing job with snow removal since we've joined the council. So we will take full credit for that.
And exactly how many snow events have we had?
So other than that, Mr. Mayor, it's been a good week.
Okay. Greg?
I think it was destiny that we weren't going to have any snow, because I know that the guys asked if we would sit in the trucks and go out at 3 in the morning, and I said absolutely, and they haven't called yet. So just two very quick things. Had to reach out to do a tour of the new distillery, and so Gabby's going to work with them to get us all coordinated on an event for the distillery. And then I'm just going to ask Mike to follow up on Saturday. During his presentation, we had made comments about whether there was an appetite to look at a new logo for the city, and so I'm just going to ask Mike to maybe follow up with that and get some direction. If there's not an appetite amongst the council, I get it. If there is, then I'll work with Mike and his team to start working through a program. That's it. Thank you.
Nope, nothing.
I don't have anything either. I think that we kind of cleared the air on a lot of matters today. I think we got through a lot. Appreciate the council, both new and old. I believe we're all one, Mr. Bertrand. That's all I have.
I just want to take a minute while the TV's still running to thank this community. It's a little tough the way you reached out to my family the last couple of weeks. So thank you all for that, and thank you for your patience that I wasn't here. So I move we adjourn.
Second.
Shaner.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Berenstein.
Aye.
Bertrand.
Aye.
Rayford.
Aye.